Today, we are going to be reviewing the alien registration requirement that was announced last month by the Department of Homeland Security. And when it was announced, they failed to disclose all the details. Of course, they scared everybody with the alien registration requirement, but then they didn't tell everybody how this was going to work and how to register and how you would be able to obtain proof for your registration. Well, now they've announced that. And they announced what is called G-325R, alien registration. And this applies to certain individuals who remain in the United States over 30 days. So if you are a Canadian citizen and you come to the United States for extended periods of time, maybe you're a snowbird, maybe you have family in the US and you stay for extended time visiting family, or you just come on long vacations to the United States, you need to be aware of this 30-day registration requirement and understand whether or not it applies to you. So this G-325R is the alien registration form that you would have to complete in order to register yourself if you are subject to the registration requirement. So who does this apply to? Well, this applies to a lot of individuals who enter the United States, and we call them non-controlled individuals. So individuals who come to the United States simply on their passport as visa-exempt Canadians, and they are not issued an I-94 record of admission to the United States upon entry. Unfortunately, this happens a lot with CBP, where they don't issue an I-94 for a lot of Canadians coming for visits to the United States. And they may not even go into a lot of detail as to what your visit is. You just say you're coming to visit, and then they'll let you in the country. You need to verify with your passport whether or not you were issued an I-94 record of admission, and you can do that through CBP's website in their I-94 lookup system. Now, who does this apply to? Well, it could possibly apply to a lot of snowbirds who come to the United States and spend the winter here, retirees who are here on extended vacations in the United States, people coming for long-term visits and staying with their family in the United States. We see a lot of individuals in relationships with U.S. citizens who do that. Remote workers in the United States, people who are here in the United States and maybe they can work online and they're doing remote work while they're visiting the United States. And anyone entering the United States by land, like I mentioned previously, without a visa, so visa-exempt Canadians, or an I-94 record of admission. Now, who is exempt from the registration process? So not everybody is required to register. You're exempt if you are in the United States on a valid visa. Maybe you came on a TN visa or an L1 or an E visa, or you were actually admitted under a B1, B2 visa to the United States. Or maybe you're a diplomat under an A or a G visa. Also, Indigenous Canadians who qualify by having at least 50% quantum merit blood do not have to register either. Now, if you do need to register, this is how you do it. You will need to go to USCIS's website, and create an account with USCIS under myuscis.gov. Then you will fill out Form G-325R. It's going to ask biographic information, your name, your birth details, your entry date, your US address, and other information that's required on the form. Key to this registration, and this is big, it requires a biometrics appointment in the United States. So you will submit this form, then later by mail, and this is where US address is important, you will receive a biometrics appointment notice that will require you to go to your local USCIS field office to complete a biometrics appointment. Now, what is a biometrics appointment? Well, that's where they take your photograph and your fingerprints, and then they do background check on you. So very important to understand that it's not just completing Form G-325R and submitting it with USCIS. You submit the form, then you will receive a follow-up biometrics appointment. You need to attend that biometrics appointment to complete the registration process. And once you are approved, once you've completed the registration process, your USCIS account will be updated and it will indicate your proof of registration. Now, after registering, USCIS will provide that proof of registration document that you are required to carry with you at all times. Now, what are acceptable proofs that you've been registered or don't have to register? Well, if you have an I-94 arrival departure document, you've already been registered. If you are a U.S. permanent resident, you've already been registered. If you had an entry stamp coming into the United States in your passport, you were more than likely registered. Again, go to CBP's website and do the I-94 lookup to verify whether you've registered. Now, what happens if you don't register, if you fail to register? Well, the penalties are pretty significant, and they're taking this quite serious. You could face up to a fine of up to $5,000, up to 6 months jail time, and be removed or deported from the United States if fraud was involved in the registration process. So make sure you comply with this requirement. Make sure you take action on your part to make sure that you are fulfilling your requirement to register. Who should register? Well, if you're in the United States over 30 days without a visa, then you should probably register. And make sure you comply with this requirement. The possible consequences are severe, and we see this impacting individuals who come into the United States who fail to register. They stay over 30 days and then they try to re-enter the United States. Well, that's an immigration violation. So if you have property in the United States, if you have family in the United States, a business in the United States that requires you to come on a regular basis, and oftentimes you stay over 30 days, make sure you meet this alien registration requirement, because if you fail to do so, the consequences are severe. And that could impact your ability to come back down next winter as a snowbird, or come down and visiting your family. So make sure you comply with this requirement to avoid possible immigration violations and your ability to enter the United States for whatever purposes, whether it's for work or your family, whatever reason, it could be significantly impacted if you fail to follow this alien registration requirement.